Fed Talk at the PILG.
The whole intent of the proposal to adapt the federal system is to remove and distribute some powers that are now concentrated in the hands of the Metro Manila government and spread these powers to the local government units, particularly through the adoption of the federal states, of which the local government units will be a part.
This is Fed Talk at the PILG, a friendly conversation on anything and everything federalism, with our host, Attorney Michael Henry Yusinko. Our special guest, Consultative Committee Spokesperson Conrado Ding Generoso. This podcast is brought to you by Pimentel Institute for Leadership and Governance and Hans Seidel Foundation, Philippines.
Welcome to the fourth episode of the Fed Talk at the PILG podcast. We have been privileged to have as guests in our podcasts folks who are eager to share their fondest memories of the late Senator Nene Pimentel, to reminisce working with him in the federalism advocacy. And in the process, I hope we have learned more about this complex subject that we call federalism. For today, we have for our guest one who we can say was in the trenches, actually, in the most recent form of the federalism advocacy, which is the Consultative Committee formed by President Rodrigo Duterte last 2018. Our guest is who we may term as a child of the first quarter storm. He was a student activist in the 70s. And he is one of the most, being the spokesperson of the Consultative Committee. Let's all welcome Mr. Ding Generoso. Ding, let me start this podcast by asking you, when did you first work with Senator Nene? And what do you remember about him?
Well, first, I'd like to greet our regular viewers. A very pleasant day in October, no? Makasaysayan din ng October sa ating bansa, no? Maraming mga kaganapan. Well, to answer your question, Mike, I first met Senator Nene Pimentel, I think back in 1987 when I personally met him, no? Although I've heard about him in the 70s when he was still mayor of Cagayan de Oro, kasi sumikat siya noon because of a case filed against him for subversion by the then Marcos administration, panahon ng martial law yan eh. And he had no money for bail. At naalala ko that yung mga citizens of Cagayan de Oro contributed 1 peso each to raise his bail money para magkaroon siya ng temporary liberty, no? When I met him in 1987, it was to arrange a meeting with a friend who was then a candidate for Vice Mayor of Quezon City. Si Isaac Belmonte, the son of former Speaker Sonny Belmonte. Ano? We visited him at his house in Marikina, dun sa, I think it was Workmen's or Workers' Village. It was a very humble house. So doon pa lang nakita ko how humble Senator Pimentel was. He was already a senator then, no? Newly elected senator in 1987. And we got to his house nung kausap ko siya by phone. Sabi niya, agahan mo lang din kasi umaalis ako ng 7 o'clock sa bahay to go to the Senate. So we were at his house at 6 in the morning. Doon na kami nagkape, konting kwentuhan. All we needed was, kasi tumakbo si Isaac Belmonte noon under PDP laban, we asked for his blessings na ma-endorso din niya. And so from then on, regular na kami nagkakasama ni Senator Pimentel outside of the Senate, of course. Nung naging director ako ng National Press Club, lagi ko siyang iniimbitahan sa mga forums ng press club. At saka, well, naging textmates na rin kami, no? Alam mo, si Senator Nene Pimentel, pagka nagte-text yan, kahit yung Christmas greeting, alam mo naman tayo, Christmas greeting natin, yung pass-on message, di ba? Pero si Senator Pimentel, pagka nagpadala siya ng Christmas message, personalized, nakalagay doon, Dear Ding. Tapos talagang mababasa mo na kinumpose niya para sa iyo lang. No, very personal. At saka yun nga, ayaw pagka nagkakausap kami, ayaw na ayaw niya natatawagin siya na senator. Sabihin niya, Ding, Nene lang. O gusto mo, Tatay Nene, mas okay. Yun, so doon makikita mo yung character niya, personality na very humble despite his position of power, ay talagang madaling yung bang magaan na makasama bilang kaibigan.
Now, Ding, let me ask you, have you always been a federalism advocate?
Well, yes, back in college kasi I remember nung 1980 or 81 elections yata yon, I was a campus journalist sa UE. Our newspaper then, yung Don, was the biggest in Southeast Asia. We had a circulation of 50,000 to 60,000 a week. We were bigger than Times Journal and Daily Express at the time, no? Meron akong isang sinulat na column noon na mag-e-election kasi noon Sabi ko, election na naman. No? Wala ba tayong napapansin sa ating election na paulit-ulit lang, wala namang nababago. Maybe what we need is system change. No, so even in my younger days, I have always been an advocate of system change, changing the configuration of our government, no, from the existing elite-driven, no, dynasty-driven, and centralized, highly centralized system to a more decentralized, no. Perhaps in those days hindi ko pa masyadong malawak yung understanding ko of federalism. No, I didn't know, but I was of the concept then of decentralizing the over-centralized system of government in Manila.
Now, Ding, di ba ikaw yung spokesperson ng consultative committee at kilala ka bilang spokesperson nga noon, ano? Now, can you share us some insights of how you work, how the consultative committee worked? Kasi yung output nyo is revolutionary, no? Yung tinatawag nating Bayanihan Federalism Draft Constitution. So, can you share some insights kung paano nyo na produce yung ganong klaseng draft constitution?
Well, siguro we have to pay some tribute to the leadership of the CONCOM also, no? Si former Chief Justice Renato Puno as chairman, and of course si Senator Nene Pimentel as vice chairman, no? Actually, doon sa executive order mismo that created the CONCOM, walang vice chairman pero sabi ni CJ Puno, let us make Senator Nene the vice chairman so that he can play an important role because all his life he has been advocate of federalism. So kaya si Senator Nene became the vice chairman. And from the start, nag-usap yung dalawa at nabuo dun sa guidance nung dalawa ay unang-una, ang unang guidance ay yung CONCOM should wear blinders. In crafting the draft constitution, sabi ni CJ Puno, we must wear blinders. We are blind to any political color or business color. No? Any color, we are blind. Our eyes are open only to what is good for the nation. So kaya yun ang naging guidance ng committee. Nasarado. Sabi ni CJ, ano tayo? We're like Lady Justice, no? Nakapiring tayo. Wala tayong titingnan, wala tayong sisinuhin dito. Ang kailangan lang ay ano yung mabuti sa bansa. So based on that framework, with Senator Nene Pimentel ably and dedicatedly assisting CJ Puno ay nabuo yung draft constitution. At ang sumunod nga na guidance doon ay kailangan magkaroon muna ng substantial, and significant political reforms before we even talk of federalism. Kaya doon sa mga unang araw ng CONCOM, kung babalikan natin yung mga lumabas sa media, ay naging mahalaga. Inuna yung mga political reforms at saka yung pagpapalakas ng Bill of Rights. Alam naman natin si Senator Nene Pimentel is also a strong advocate of human rights and our Bill of Rights. Kaya nung magkasama sila ni CJ po, no, talagang maganda yung agreement na kailangan itong political reforms at saka yung pagpapalakas ng Bill of Rights ay ang tawag nung dalawa dyan, ano yan non-negotiable parts of the Constitution. All other parts, kung kailangan makipag-compromise on certain terms with those who will craft, eventually make the final proposition, yung political reforms at saka yung Bill of Rights, dyan ay non-negotiable dun sa ginawang draft ng CONCOM.
So, Ding, can you give us an update? Ano na nangyari dun sa Bayanihan Federalism Draft? Ano status niya ngayon?
Well, sa ngayon, admittedly and unfortunately, it's in the back burner. No? Kasi ang dapat kasing mangyari, base dun sa Executive Order number 10 ni President Duterte, ay isasubmit yan sa Kongreso. And Congress will craft based at gagamiting working draft dapat yan ng Kongreso as a constituent assembly. But although Congress received unofficial copies of the draft from CONCOM, yung official copy was not submitted by the President for reasons that are known only to him. Maybe ako just speculating, maybe the President felt that it was not yet the right time to submit it in 2018, ano? At nakita naman natin na yung ginawa when GMA former President Gloria Arroyo was speaker, nung naglabas sila ng draft, it was a mangled draft, no? That was not federal at all, no? But recentralizing, in fact, strengthening the central government, no? So siguro yun ang reason. Looking back, naisip lang natin na maybe that's the reason. So sa ngayon ay it's in the back burner. We're hoping that I don't know, siguro kung hindi na ngayon, for lack of time, maybe in the next administration, baka magkaroon tayo ng another opportunity. But for now, we never stop campaigning even during the pandemic. We went on social media. So what we're doing now, really, also sa tulong ng PILG, of course, ay at yung iba pang kasama natin na allied groups, ay pinapalawak natin yung kaalaman ng ating mga kababayan tungkol sa mga panukalang reforma.
So, Ding, gaano ka-importante ba para sa iyo yung federalism advocacy?
Well, alam mo, this is almost more than half of my life. Personally, this is more than half of my life. I started advocating for system change when I was, I think 19 or 20 years old back in college. No? Nung aktivista pa tayo, nagsisisigaw sa kalsada, nagsusulat sa dyaryo. No? Muntik na rin tayo makulong nung araw. No? Kasi noon pa paniniwala natin at marami tayong mga kasama sa parehong paniniwala na ang mahalaga sa atin ay hindi lamang yung kada 6 na taon, kada 3 taon ay nagpapalit tayo ng liderato, yung tinatawag nating regime change. Because we have come to the conclusion maybe 2-3 decades ago na no matter who you place in power in the country, kahit na gaano kaganda ang intensyon, gaano ka-honest, gaano ka-sincero, kakainin at kakainin ng sistema. Because the system itself is what is failing the nation. Because yung sistema natin ay dinisign ito ng mga Kastila na ipinagpatuloy ng mga Amerikano nung tayo kolonya, ipinagpatuloy din ng mga Hapon nung in the brief period that we were colonized by Japan, at ipinagpatuloy nung itinayo natin yung ating bagong republika noong 1946. Wala namang nabago dun sa istruktura natin. Kung ano yung itinayo ni Miguel Lopez de Legazpi noong 1565 or 69 dito sa Intramuros, ayun pa rin ang istruktura natin. Pinalitan lang natin ng titulo yung Governor General, ginawa lang natin Presidente. Pero yung kapangyarihan at yung control sa buong Pilipinas ay ganun pa rin, hindi nagbabago. No? So sa akin ay napakahalaga nito. Sayang nga na marami na tayong kasama sa advocacy na pumanaw na at hindi na nakita yung katuparan. No? Notably, tatlong miyembro na ng CONCOM ang nawala. No? Kabilang na of course si Senator Nene Pimentel. Pero meron tayong pangako kay Senator Nene na hindi tayo titigil. At we think na ginagabayan naman tayo ni Tatay Nene hanggang ngayon. Kaya may kasamang dasal itong ating itong ating pagsusulong ng federalism.
So, alam mo ding isa sa mga criticism sa federalism advocacy is hindi pa handa ang Pilipino para sa yung tinatawag mo ngang system change. Sa karanasan mo bilang spokesperson ng Consultative Committee, nakita mo ba yon na hindi pa handa ang Pilipino para sa federalism?
Alam mo, sasagutin ko yan sa dalawang paraan. No? Una, sa pag-iikot ko, alam mo, simula pa nung 2015 kami nag-iikot ni na si CJ Puno sa kampanya ng federalism. Ako personally, I have gone to, I think, 60 to 65 provinces. Out of the 81 provinces, 60 to 65 ang napuntahan ko. At hindi lang isang beses. Marami doon, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 na beses na nabalikan. At iba't ibang klaseng tao ang nakausap natin. Simula sa magsasaka, manggagawa, tendera sa palengke, tricycle driver, mga guro, estudyante, no? Mga out of school youth, mga magulang. Lahat yan nakasalamuhan natin in person, face to face. At doon sa nakasalamuhan natin, halos 100%, pagka naintindihan nila, naunawaan nila, halos 100% ang nagsasabi na gusto nila yung ipinapanukala natin. Ngayon, handa ba? Ang tingin ko sa mga pagbabago ng sistema, hindi mo naman kailangang ihanda yung 50%, 60%, 70%, 80% of the population. May kasabihan nga na tayo na it only takes a few good men to change the world. Di ba? Nung panahon ng mga Kastila, ilan ba sa mga Pilipino ang naniwala sa ipinaglalaban ni na Rizal, ni na Del Pilar, ni na Bonifacio, ni na Aguinaldo, ni na Mabini? Meron bang 10% ang nakaunawa ng kahalagahan ng kasarinlan noon? May 20%. Handa ba ang mga Pilipino na maging malaya? Marami din nagsabi, hindi kayo handa. Despite that, nakipaglaban ang mga ninuno natin na itatag ang kauna-unahang republika sa Asia. Nung panahon ng Amerikano, sabi ng Amerikano, hindi kayo handa sa demokrasya, turuan muna namin kayo. No? Anong itinuro sa atin ng mga Amerikano? Yung pagtuturo nga nila, yun ang naging dahilan para masadlak tayo sa mga suliranin ng bayan ngayon. No? If we trace the roots of our problems, doon natin makikita ang mga ugat. No? Yung sistemang ipinagpatuloy at pinairal ng mga Amerikano nung tayo'y alipin pa nila. At naglikha lang sila ng mga bagong mag-aalipin sa atin. Diba? Pinalitan lang natin yung Kastila-Amerikano. Ang masaklap doon, ang nag-aalipin sa atin ngayon ay kapwa natin Pilipino. Kaya nagkatotoo yung sinasabi ni Rizal. Pero yun ba ay dahil sa hindi kahandaan? Tingin ko handa ang mga Pilipino. Handa tayo sa anumang pagbabago, sa anumang pagsubok. We are a resilient race. Lahat ng krisis na dadaanan natin, lahat ng hirap na dadaanan natin, nagsusurvive tayo. No? At saka yung dinesign naman ng CONCOM na sistema ng pagbabago, hindi naman yung biglaan, may plano. At yung plano na yan ng paglipat sa buong federal system ay tatagal ng hanggang 12 taon. No? It's 3 election cycles bago mabuo yung buong sistema, bago mailatag yung buong sistema. Kaya hindi biglaan yun. Kaya during that process, ay makikita natin ang ating kahandaan at pagagandahin natin yung ating kahandaan. And bilang panghuli, tulad ng sigaw natin noon, kung hindi ngayon, kailan pa?
Tama ka dyan, Ding. No, ngayon, tama yung sinasabi mo, no, na kailangan talaga natin ng system change. Parating ng eleksyon, ano? Actually, election season na, no? Naglalabasan na yung mga politiko natin. Ito, second to the last question ko sa'yo. Sa tingin mo, dapat bang maging election issue itong federalism?
Oo, dapat. Kaya nga kami, meron din kaming maliit pa sa ngayon na political party. Yung naalala mo naman, after Concom, tumakbo ako ng senador, no? Pagka-senador. Under our political party, yung Katipunan ng Kamalayang Kayumanggi. Admittedly, alam naman natin na hindi tayo mananalo noon. Wala tayong kalaban-laban sa mga politiko natin sa ngayon. At saka yung sistema mismo ng halalan ay kontra sa mga nagre-reforma, nagpapanukala ng reforma, lalo sa mga kandidato at partido na hindi kasama dun sa sistemang umiiral. No? Pero ang isang maganda, ginamit natin yung election noong 2019 para mapalawak yung kaalaman ng tao tungkol sa federalism, specifically yung bayanihan federalism under the Concom draft, no? Kaya lahat ng pinuntahan ko noon, lahat ng kampanya, whether sa debate sa radyo, TV, o sa mga campaign sortie sa probinsya o sa social media, isa lang naman ang mensahe natin noon yung pagbabago ng sistema at yung pag-shift natin from unitary to federal system. Yun lang. At tingin ko ay kahit hindi tayo nanalo, ay malawak din yung naging resulta ng ating kampanya. So we're hoping yung aming kandidato, ang partido ngayon, kasama yung iba pang nag-a-advocate ng federalism, ay we're fielding candidates also with one single purpose. Yun pa rin, i-advocate pa rin yung federalism issue. And we hope that by doing this, we can keep the system change issue alive. Kailangan nating panatilihin na buhay yung issue ng federalism at system change. Election man o walang election. Pero siyempre, maganda yung election kasi nagkakaroon tayo ng platform, nagkakaroon tayo ng entablado para mapag-usapan ng higit pa yung issue ng federalism.
Okay, Ding. Huling tanong ko na lang sa iyo, no? Ano kaya ang prospects ng federalism advocacy after the 2022 elections? Saan kaya tayo mapupunta? Saan kaya tayo mapupunta?
Siguro unang-una, a lot will depend still on the kind of people that will be elected. From the president, more importantly, dun sa national leadership, no, from the president, the vice president, and the members of our Congress, the senators and the congressmen. Mahalaga yon dahil alam naman natin na ang pagsusulong ng pagbabago, kung merong suporta ng both the executive and legislative branches of government, ay mas mapapagaan. No, but even without that, we can draw inspiration from what happened in the 1970s. Kung maalala natin noon, nagkaroon tayo din ng isang pagbabago dahil dun sa political wave of political reforms, not only in the Philippines but in many parts of the world, no? Ay na-infect tayo noon ng liberation movement, di ba? Kaya nagkaroon ng student activism. At ang isang sigaw noon ay yung pagbabago ng sistema. Kaya nabuo, despite the lack of cooperation of both the executive branch and the legislative branch of government at the time, nagkaroon tayo ng pagkakataon sa pamamagitan ng isang constitutional convention. Yun nga lang, yung CONCON natin na-hijack ng martial law. Kaya naiba, di ba? Yung ginawang constitution, naging tailor fit para sa isang presidente. Di ba? Nawala yung mga nagsulat. Miyembro ng CONCON si dating Senator Nene Pimentel, hindi, di ba? He was one of the youngest members of CONCON at the time.
That's right.
So, even if hindi maging masyadong cooperative yung next administration, we will still push through, and ang susunod na estratehiya natin ay magkaroon ng isang constitutional convention. Either ipatawag ng Kongreso o kung gagamitin natin yung People's Initiative provision ng ating konstitusyon, pwede tayong lumikha ng isang batas, no, through People's Initiative para buuin ng isang constitutional convention. Yan ang isang pinag-aaralan namin ngayon kung paano gagawin yan. bilang isang long-term strategy sa pagsusulong ng system change. And well, we believe that it can be done. Pero hihintayin na rin muna natin yung magiging resulta ng halalan para makita natin kung ano magiging mukha ng Kongreso. Kasi vital yung papel din na admittedly, kasi isang kapangyarihan para baguhin yung konstitusyon nasa Kongreso eh. Kahit yung pagpapatawag ng CONCON, may kapangyarihan din ng Kongreso na tumawag ng CONCON. No? Pero ang isang provision kasi dyan ay sinasabi rin sa konstitusyon na yung pagpapatawag ng isang constitutional convention ay maaaring i-refer ng Kongreso sa taong bayan simply by passing a resolution calling for a referendum to ask the people if they want a CONCON convened. And if the people decide to do so, then it becomes a mandate on Congress. They have no other choice but to call for a constitutional convention. So yun ang mga pinag-aaralan natin sa ngayon na hakbang. Kung ito'y may isa sa katuparan, well, we pray that it will happen. We hope and we are working with several advocates of federalism and system change na ipagpatuloy ang kampanya ngayong halalan and after the elections tungo sa isang tunay na pagbabago.
Maraming salamat, Ding. Maraming salamat sa pag-share mo ng mga fond memories mo of the late Senator Nene Pimentel. And of course, maraming salamat din sa mga insights mo on federalism as a reform initiative, no? That it is actually a way to change the way we govern ourselves. So Ding, maraming salamat and all the best sa political advocacies mo.
Well, maraming salamat Mike at congratulations sa PILG, no? Maganda ang ginagawa ng PILG and let's work together dito sa ating advocacy yan ng system change and federalism. Magandang araw sa ating mga tagapanood.
Till the next episode of Fed Talk at the PILG, goodbye.
Good governance does not depend on the governors alone, but also on the governor.